A few years of full-time work and full-time school, along with pivoting into a new career, moving across the country, man, that did a number on my body. I'm 5'10", and I started at 220 pounds, which isn't really all that big by any measure. But at the beginning of this year, I weighed in at 268. What's worse, last fall, I experienced a twinge in my right foot that just wouldn't really go away. And as it turns out, that's water retention. I'm 45 years old, and I was experiencing something that got bad in my dad only in his last years. So it was very clear to me when that happened last July that I need to do something about this, and I need to do it now. Everything is just going in the wrong direction. I've got curves in all the wrong places, and we need to fix this. So when I moved here to Des Moines last year, I chose this particular location because of its vicinity to the local trails. The trail's just half a mile away from here. So initially, I wanted to make use of that trail, and I got out there for some walks, and I'll tell you what, the moment that I hit that path, my feet wanted to run. Like my cross country running days and those 10-mile races and that half marathon back in 2015, like all of those memories came flooding back. And I said, if I'm going to be out here on this trail, I want to be running, not walking. And then I kind of looked down and I thought about it more, and I thought about being 270 pounds. And I said, man, I don't know if I can do so without injuring myself. I need to lose weight first. And I have a bike. So let's get back into biking. Maybe that'll do the trick. So I pulled out my bike. I went for my maiden voyage. That's what I called it. That's the first time I've ridden my bike in 5+ years. Took it out to the trail, and oh my gosh, I cannot express what it felt like. It was just utter joy. Like, I love working my quads hard. Back in high school, I remember doing drop sets just because I wanted to feel that quad burn. And man, you get the quad burn, your lungs are pumping, you're just breathing like a madman and experiencing that wind that's rushing past. Like, oh, it was so much fun. And getting out there just brought everything back. I can't really express how excited I am to have running and cycling back in my life. And it really did just come back on that first and second ride, even though they were short, it absolutely counts. And it just brought back that fire inside me that says, we're doing this. After a couple of weeks, I started talking to my brother a little bit more about it all. And he's asked me if I'd ever heard of Zwift. And I haven't. So Zwift is apparently an indoor cycling platform. It's a virtual platform for cycling. Hopefully you have heard of it. If not, you will hear more about it. It has been amazing. Basically, what it does is it takes this like old school idea of riding indoors on a trainer, and then they add gamification where you've got frames that you can buy and wheels that you can buy and frames you can level up and segments that you can sprint and keep your personal bests on, and king of the mountain segments, and just so much more. It has been just a journey into itself, learning and getting into Zwift. And you can see the smile. Like, I have had so much fun on Zwift in these past months. It's been an incredible addition to my life and my cycling journey. But it all started right there in August when I talked to my brother and I said, winter is coming in hot. Well, I guess cold in this case. This is Iowa after all. I was just fearful of what's going to happen to my foot if I'm not walking or biking or running regularly. I need to stay active. And that was his answer was, have you heard of this thing called Zwift? So he actually took the time on one of his trips through the area. He stopped over and dropped off an old trainer of his and helped me log in to experience Zwift for a weekend. And I was hooked immediately. I rode all through that weekend, and throughout the next 4 weeks, I rode 6 hours per week. Just, I went from nothing to 6 hours a week. That wasn't a bad move. So throughout all of August, I was riding hard and just getting into Zwift and everything it has to offer. I was finding all my pacer bots and getting KOMs, seeing number go up left, right, and center. My FTP was increasing like mad because I was getting more familiar with cycling again and how to sprint and stuff like that. And man, hit personal power records, KOMs. It was awesome. I was getting a ton of new gear because you're low levels and stuff is cheap. And the experience, man, it's so hard to express just how improved the experience is from those wheel-on trainers to the direct drive that we can use today. If you are on the fence, I know it's expensive, but if you are on the fence, invest. It is so worth it, man. So worth it. Along with that excitement and diving into this new technology and this new experience came a lot of minor aches that became worse and worse as I pushed through. And I should not have ignored them, but it was so hard. I was so passionate and having so much fun. Nonetheless, when those minor aches became major aches and eventually became crippling pain, I finally realized we had to do something about it. So in September, mid-September, it all came crashing down. Both of my knees had severe overtraining injuries. I should not have been doing 6 hours a week. I should have been doing like 2 hours a week. And we had to regress. We had to pull all the way back to 2 hours a week for a month or two and slowly work our way back up over the next few months. I ended up visiting a physical therapist first, and that physical therapist gave me an assessment, and he said, your glutes are really weak and the rest of your leg is trying to make up for that, but it can't. You need to strengthen your glutes. So he sent me home with clamshells, donkey kicks, hip bridges, and encouraged me to stay on the weight machine. I used to do some powerlifting with a friend, which is bench press, deadlift, and squats. And he's like, yeah, keep going with any of that, but especially add these. And he also encouraged me to do those things like clamshells, monster walks, hip bridges. He encouraged me to do a shorter set of that as activation drills to get my glutes activated and firing before each session on the bike as well. And it seems to have made a difference. After another couple of weeks, probably a month of doing rehab and experiencing some improvement, but not a great deal, then I realized it might be bike fit. I went ahead in October and I went out to a professional fitter. That first fit was a complete disaster. I went in confident in knowing what I want. I told him I want a comfortable ride. I am 45 years old. I have not been on a bike regularly in almost a decade, and I want it to be more upright so I don't have to bend all the way over and put all my weight on my hands. And I want it to be just plain comfortable and healthy so that I can just put in the hours and get my miles done. So he did what's logical when somebody says that. You raise the handlebars and you drop the saddle. And that was pretty much it. He also saw that I am a bit bigger, both in weight, but also in size and in height and such. So he gave me an increased Q factor along the way, which is the cranks at the bottom, in the bottom bracket there. They're just moving the cranks apart so that your feet are not so close to the frame. They're just moved out a little ways. And so he had a couple of spacers down there, but only on one leg, not on the other. There was a slight imbalance in that. It was really, really weird, and in no way did it help my knees. So I dealt with that for a couple of weeks, and then I finally just gave up on that, and I said, I want a second opinion. So I went out to another bike shop here, and I got a completely separate fitting opinion there. And each time that I went out to these individuals, I just asked a lot of questions. I did a lot of research online and just worked my way through, like, what is the problem? What's going on? What are the things that we're adjusting, and how do those adjustments affect me and my riding? And is it the physical therapy or is it the fit? How do these things work together to make me a healthy cyclist? It took from September, when I first got out to the physical therapist, got injured and went to the physical therapist, through October with my first fitting, November with my second fitting. If this is going to become better, it's going to be through trial and error and making tiny adjustments along the way, using the knowledge that I've gained from these experiences to eventually get us back to healthy. And I was putting in the time though too. I was riding maybe 2 hours a week and doing rehab 3 times a week. I was working hard on those monster walks and donkey kicks, let me tell you. So after all of that effort, it wasn't until December. I finally made it through some simple rides, 45-minute rides without any knee pain. And I would finish off an entire hour, which was my goal at the time, was a 1 hour ride. I'd finish off that entire hour and not really feel any pain. But then the next day I would feel a pain in my knee, which was good because that meant that it was starting to heal now. I was doing so little damage during that hour ride that my body could start to recover before my next ride. But I was still doing damage because it would ache the next day. It was so frustrating. So the big thing that I found, I'm pretty sure, honestly, this was the primary find of all of that, was this little article that had an image, and I'll list it here and I'll put the link below to the article. But it shows each of the 4 cyclists, and if you're experiencing pain on this part of your knee, here's an adjustment that you can make to correct it. And that was the first time that I really played with my cleats and cleat positioning. So I started, throughout all of December, I started adjusting my cleats until we finally got things right. And by the end of December, I was able to ride the full 3 to 4 hours per week, pain-free. It was not the amazing feeling that you would think it would be. After 3 to 4 months of 2 to 3 hours a week and finishing every ride with pain, when I finally got through those rides and wasn't experiencing anything, it was like almost like backlash where it's like, okay, we're good today, but how's tomorrow going to be? And January was a huge turning point for all of this. In January, I was able to confirm in those first 2 weeks that I'm doing things right and I have healed. I would continue doing my rehab work for the next month or two through February, actually, because I was intending on increasing my time in the saddle. I wanted to make sure that, like, not only did I bring my strength up to what I currently needed, but was also ready for that future increase. So I started increasing my actual time in the saddle, like, already. So in January, for the first 2 weeks of January, I rode 4 hours per week. I was riding 3 days a week, and I pushed it up so that I had, actually, on one Wednesday at the beginning of January, I went for a full 2 hour ride, pain-free. It was amazing. So during that time, they also had something called Tour de Zwift. It's just one of their typical events. It's a month-long event, and they have different stages available each week. So I was like, hey, I want to complete this event and get the new jersey, the new kit that they award on completion. So I just logged in to race a Tour de Zwift Stage 1 race. It was really hard, but it was also a lot of fun. And on that particular Strava ride, somebody from Rhino Racing reached out to me to recruit me into their developmental D League. They had a team that they were forming for the developmental side of Category D, and he saw that I had just completed my first race and wanted to check in to see if it was something I might be interested in. He had apparently looked up my power profile and saw that, where I was at as far as, like, power output is concerned, that I would be eligible for this, etc. It was really, really cool. And I thought about it hard and recognized that, like, with my knees being healthy and this just being the start of the journey, adding in that social element would be a really good thing. So I went ahead and took him up on it. And I have now raced through 2 full seasons of ZRL, the Zwift Racing League, with Rhino Racing. And it has been an absolute blast. It's been so much fun being healthy and getting out there to ride hard and support my team, my rhinos. It's been so cool. Really enjoyed it. And it's just added yet another element to the awesomeness that has been Zwift. And I'm continuing to race with them. That right now we're in a little bit of an off season, but I still look forward to the next season to come. Even over the summer, I still intend to be racing with Rhino throughout the summer and continuing to ride on Zwift throughout the summer as well. With the introduction of racing into the journey, that means comparing yourself to others. And this increased my awareness of FTP, that's functional threshold power. And FTP is usually it can be presented in one of two ways. It's either your straight up wattage, which at the point of this recording is now 277 watts for me, which is a pretty high number. It's pretty good. However, the same can be said about FTP as can be said about VO2 max. If you're not familiar, VO2 max, volume of oxygen. That is to say, what is the maximum volume of oxygen that you can consume? Both VO2 max and FTP have a weight element involved. So FTP could just be declared as a regular wattage, but that doesn't give you the whole picture. If you take it as watts per kg, then you get the whole picture. So even though I'm 277, that equates to 2.4 watts per kg, which is not bad. Let me say that here. That is not bad at all. However, it is still also very solidly category D. It's really hard to overcome being heavy. With running and as with cycling, any of these aerobic activities, the heavier you are, the harder it is to propel yourself forward. I found the Zwift category on Twitch. That Zwift category introduced me to a great guy and a great community. His channel is First Name Basis. Again, link in the description down below. He is awesome. He's out from the western side of the US, so streams later at night, and it was really funny. I found him just because he's the latest cycling streamer. So everybody East Coast and Central they'd raid each other and send people over, and eventually everyone would get funneled into First Name Basis because he would ride for so long and was so regular most nights and was West Coast. Well, that happenstance put me into a really great community. And through that community and his encouragement, hearing his journey to health years back now himself, that told me two things about my plans. One was I'm not being aggressive enough. And two, I need to learn calories in and calories out. So I started up a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet listed out my training in hours. You can see it right here. And the other half of this spreadsheet is something to track my breakfast, lunch, even dinner, afternoon snacks, evening snacks, how many calories I'm burning on the bike, what my BMR is, etc., etc. It's all of my calories in and calories out so that I can track if I'm losing weight or not. And if so, how much? So that was also a journey that was started in January. And the other one was that I can be so much more aggressive. I don't need to limit myself to just increasing my time in the saddle by half an hour a week, an hour a week. Instead, I was just going to push it. Hearing his story, First Name Basis, is about when he was increasing mileage. He said that he first started riding 30 miles per ride, and then eventually he just got comfortable there and said, you know what? It's time to increase this. 50 miles per ride. And that's a ridiculous increase. That's almost double the distance. And he was like, no, it was fine. I just kept within myself. I didn't push it incredibly fast. I didn't ramp intensity. I just increased my distance, and it was okay. So I said, hey, I can do that. I increased my mileage by 2 hours per week in February. So I went from 4 hours in January to 6 in February to 8 in March, up to 10 hours per week in April. And to put this in perspective, we're talking calories in, calories out. I am burning approximately 7,000 calories per week, 2 pounds of calories per week on the bike. And that's excluding actually going on a diet. Like, I don't even need to go on a diet, and I'm still in that deficit, burning 2 pounds per week. It's incredible to consider. So I've done the math on it, and basically I get to choose what weight I am going to eventually end up being. I'm burning so many calories at 10 hours per week, and I'm not replacing them through snacking and such. But having that spreadsheet actually has shown me that I can snack on many days. When I'm in a deficit of 1,500 to 2,000 calories, like, you don't want to burn that many calories in one day without replenishment. So I'll go ahead and snack on those days and bring myself back up to, 1,000 in deficit or 700 in deficit, something far more reasonable. And the end result has been amazing. I mean, as you're hearing these huge numbers, I've experienced those huge numbers. I started this year at 268 pounds in January, and as of today, I'm 248. I've had a low weight of 243 at one point in time, and then I took a business trip out east, and after a week and a half of fast food, I did regain a lot of that. But even as of today, I am currently 20 pounds lighter than I was at the first of the year. And most of this weight loss has happened since like February 15th. I've basically been losing 6 pounds a month. It's a ridiculous amount. And it all comes down to two things: gaining a better understanding of how many calories I'm actually eating each day, how many calories are in each of my snacks, and limiting those snacks, along with consistency, 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 just getting in the saddle and putting in the time. 10 hours a week is a massive sacrifice. Like, I recognize that, and while I would recommend it, I think it's been fantastic for my health and enjoyment of life. But I also recognize not everybody enjoys cycling and aerobic activity the way that I do. And 10 hours requires significant sacrifice. And that's not for everybody. But I will also say, you can burn so many calories if you just put in the hours. It's amazing. Looking into the coming months from here, I can tell you that even though I have lost weight, 20 pounds sounds like a lot. I haven't actually noticed it yet. I'm noticing that my jeans and shorts are fitting much more loosely than before. I was starting to tip into the 2XL range. Now I'm firmly back into XL. However, what that means is all of my clothes actually fit proper again. I never got to the point where I had to buy a new set of clothes to handle being 2XL. So I haven't really noticed any difference. I look in the mirror and I see the same person that I've always seen. Change happens slowly. But you've already heard, there's been so much work to get to where we are today. It started by recognizing the need and feeling that deep seated conviction that I need to make a change, getting out for that walk and wishing I could run, remembering I own a bike, and my brother getting me into Zwift, getting injured, spending months doing rehab, clamshells, thousands of clamshells over this last year, getting on the weight machine regularly and working my way through rehab, learning as I could, getting multiple bike fits and making additional adjustments, and eventually getting there, getting into racing, counting calories, learning how to handle nutrition on the bike. We have gotten so solid with this cycling foundation. Like, I'm still category D, okay? Like, you put me in a Zwift race and I am at the very back. Maybe not very back, but just up from the very bottom. That said, yesterday's ride, I'm recording this on, what is today's date? This is the 9th of May. On May 8th, I completed a 110-kilometer ride. That's 69 miles in 4 hours. I hit personal bests the entire way home. It was an out and back. And on the second half of it, I hit PB after PB all the way home because I'm feeling that strong and I've built that much endurance and I've fueled my ride that well. And that was a 4-hour ride. Thinking back to January, when I was doing 4 hours per week, I am able to do a regular week's worth of work and cap it off with a 4-hour ride. It's been amazing. But this is only the start of the journey. Truly, this is stage one. This is setting the stage and learning all of that stuff and building up so that I can now make moves. So this next move is weight loss. And we'll be talking about that a lot over this next year. I'm also going to be moving into running. I ran a 5K actually just a couple weeks back, and well, run walked a 5K, and I did pretty darn good if I do say so myself. I ran a 36-minute 5K. Very proud of that. We had so much fun. It was a great time with a couple of friends out east when I was on that business trip. I stayed back for an entire weekend just to get some time with friends, and they were already doing it, so I did too. And that side of things is starting to get into running again. That is going to be the one of the challenges for this year is starting to get into running again. And then next year, hopefully, will be year of the run in the same way that this is year of the bike. We've amped it up to 10 hours per week, and I want to keep it here, maybe even increase it a little bit yet again. But cycling is my journey to health this year. And that's what we're going to be focusing on between now and the end of the year. There are two big rides that I've got scheduled coming up right now. One is about right around my birthday. This is going to be June 20th. And that is the Bakun ride. That is bacon and raccoon. Bakun. That one is a 70-mile ride coming on up. It is going to be tour style. So it's 70 miles, but there are 6 or 7 stops along the way. And each stop is going to offer bacon-themed food. So it's not 70 miles straight through. It's 70 miles with a couple of stops and some really interesting food to try along the way. So I'll definitely be recording what I can for that and share that journey with y'all. And then in late July is the big one. If you have never heard of Ragbri, I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot more between now and then, but it is the Register's annual Great Bike Ride Across Iowa, Ragbri. And that one is a 390-mile journey from the Missouri River on the west to the Mississippi River on the east. And that 300-mile ride is going to happen within 6 days. So that'll be about 60 miles per day. There's one day that's going to be a full-on century if you want to opt into it. I've heard that that's gravel only. That addition is gravel only. We'll see, because if it is, I cannot do it. I do not have the bike for it. If it is not, then we're doing it. But nonetheless, that is going to be in late July. Again, I'm going to record what I can, and we'll share that journey with y'all as well. In the meantime, I'm going to keep on trucking. We're looking here over these next 8 months to lose weight. I want to get down to 200 pounds. That's my end goal. Thank you for sticking around and listening to my story here about cycling over the past 6 months, as the massive downs and the massive ups. It's been really exciting and really challenging, and man, so much fun. There's been so much learning along the way, and I feel like I have a much better grasp of what I'm doing, how to improve both like performance and power wise, but also increasing distance and having that successful 4-hour ride yesterday. You know, those are two different things, gaining the power and gaining the endurance. And we've made such great strides and been able to lose weight while doing so. And that is the key. That is the part that makes me so proud, is that we've been improving while losing weight. So I'm super excited for everything else that's to be coming this year. I'm going to be getting into running. Today, I just got a special delivery. I traded my walking pad that I had here for the standing desk for a treadmill, so I can actually run indoors here in the house as well. So I'm super excited for that as I begin to transition a little bit more into running as well, and actually getting back to my roots running. It's going to be an exciting summer, and I am so excited for everything that's yet to come. And I appreciate you being here for the journey along the way. I think the big part is, though, that determination wins. When it comes down to it, determination wins, being purposeful in what you're doing and sticking to it. So remember that. Whatever it is, stick to it. You've got this. We'll see you next time.